I am calling the committee meeting of the Legislative and Legal Affairs Committee to order. The time is 6:35 p.m. on November 13th, 2025. We have 3 items on our agenda tonight. The first is order number 25-1009415, communication from President Ossing regarding proposed change to Marlborough City Charter relative to Section 59A for filling vacancies in the office of Mayor and City Council. Order number 25-1009414, communication from City Solicitor Grossfield regarding procedure to fill vacant Ward 7 councilor position. And order number 25-1009576, proposed lease agreement with South Middlesex Opportunity Council for space at the Walker Building. I'll take the items up in order, beginning with order number 25-1009415, the communication from President Ossing, which I will read. Dated April 8th, 2025. Dear Councilors, attached is a draft change to the Marlborough City Charter, Section 59A, involving filling vacancies in Office of Mayor and in Council. The current charter has different requirements for filling vacancies in the at-large councilor position and the ward councilor position. For councilors at large, if a vacancy occurs at any time during the term, the vacancy is filled by a majority vote of all remaining members to fill the remainder of the unexpired term. Contrast that to how the charter addresses vacancies in the ward councilor position. If a vacancy occurs before the last 6 months of the term, the city council shall forthwith order an election to fill such vacancy for the remainder of the unexpired term. The charter is silent on how to handle vacancies in the last 6 months of the term. Since 1995, there have been 3 ward councilors that have died in office prior to the last 6 months of the term, 1995, 2003, and 2025. In the first two cases, the City Council approved a Home Rule petition to appoint a ward councilor for the remainder of the term. In both cases, the legislature approved and the governor signed a special act to allow the City Council to appoint a ward councilor to fill the remainder of the term. The rationale for changing the charter for filling the vacancies in a ward councilor seat includes City Council past precedents. City Council in 1995 and 2003 approved the request for a Home Rule petition to appoint a ward councilor. It aligns the charter for filling council vacancies, revising the charter to align the filling of vacancies in a ward council position with the filling of vacancies in an at-large council position, aligns the process for filling vacant ward and at-large positions by majority vote of the City Council. Election timelines have become more onerous. The new requirements for in-person voting and mail-in voting has potential to extend the timeline to conduct a special election. Cost of elections. Allowing the City Council to appoint the vacant council position will save the taxpayers the expense of conducting an election, which includes advertising, staff time, poll workers, constables, printing ballots, and programming election equipment. As demonstrated in 1995 and 2003, and for the period of November 2024 to April 2025, the at-large councilors have filled in to address ward issues with no noted concerns to date. I recommend this proposed charter change be referred to the Legislative and Legal Affairs Committee for deliberation. Should the City Council approve the charter change, this would then require the solicitor to place the charter change in format to allow the City Council to approve a Home Rule petition for the legislature to approve and the governor to sign a special act approving the charter change. Sincerely, Michael H. Ossing, City Council President. And it had one attachment, which is the proposed change to the charter section. So with that, I will open this up to the voting members of the committee if they have any questions. Councilor Roby?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't have questions. I guess I do have some comments. I know Councilor Ossing had done a lot of research with, I believe, the city clerk to look back at the 2003 records, which are actually a part of the next order. And I believe in 2003, when the council asked for a home rule petition to appoint, they actually wound up taking almost a whole year to finally decide to let the election happen in November, and then they had that person take the seat immediately, which is kind of what we were trying to do with the vacancy this time around. So I hear his concerns, and listening to the tapes that were found and recreated in a format we could listen to, I personally have the same concerns that those counselors did back then in choosing a ward counselor, especially in a ward I don't live in. And I don't know, granted, we did not have issues this time around, and we were lucky that we never had a 5-5 vote and didn't have somebody to break the tie. But you never know what the future will get us. So I'm uncomfortable. I'm also curious how we can just allow the legislature through a home rule petition to change our charter when we tried to make other charter changes and had a charter commission, and they said it wasn't worth it. So can we really, I mean, considering we have a home rule petition in front of the legislature now, and the Senate has taken them up, but the House has not, I don't know whether we would ever be able to get approval of a home rule petition to change the charter, rather than, and I get the cost of elections, but the whole idea of having elections is to let the people in the ward, or for at large, the people at large, to be able to vote on who they want to represent them. And I don't know about anybody else, but I'm not comfortable being the one who says you get to now represent the ward. But that's just me, so I will see if anybody else has opinions. But
Thank you, Counselor. Any other? Counselor Fucillo?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and Counselor Roby, great points. I think, in reading some of this, I share some of the concerns, but I also, I feel as though just having had the school committee joint session, and I understand that is for a citywide position, but I think we recognize the fact that there's such a quick turnaround in a 2-year term, as counselors, that we were up against the possibility for this Ward 7 position that we could have had 4 elections in the span of 7 months. And that kind of strain, I don't think, would necessarily get us the candidate that's the will of the people. We saw how low voter turnout was in the general election this go-around. I can't imagine if we had a special election primary or a preliminary, what turnout would look like. So I understand the perspective that, yes, this person is elected by the people of the ward, but I think, this person would only be serving the duration of that term. At the maximum, it could be 2 years, but I think, and it'd be likely less than that if something were to happen in this case. So I do think it could be a worthwhile endeavor to align the at-large and the ward counselors to have the same procedure. I would like to think that we would follow a similar procedure as the school committee joint convention. I know in Framingham, I'd done a little bit of homework. They have some language. Whereas that, we have to provide notice of the counselor vacancy, and it's posted for a minimum of 21 days prior to the meeting at which the council shall select that person. Then we can set our own rules for that meeting to then ensure that, those people are afforded an opportunity, kind of unlike the school committee meeting where they only had 2 minutes. We could, set whatever rules we do, what we would like to see in order to pick somebody that we think could fill the rest of that term. They would still have to run in their own capacity, on their own merits, to then, be elected to that seat. They would have a certain level of incumbency, but I think, being such a local election, there's not too much incumbency advantage. Folks have the ability to run and run against folks. So with that, I think I'd be in favor of giving this a shot. There's obviously no promises that the State House will approve this, but I think it's worthwhile. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Counselor Fucillo. Counselor Ossing?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, to a couple of Councilor Roby's points. So, I agree, home rule petitions may or may not get approved. That's at the whim of the legislature. We send them. We've got 2 in there right now. One to basically say we'll appoint the Ward 7 counselor that was elected in November as soon as, we can. but the legislature hasn't acted on it, which is their prerogative. We have the second home rule petition that this council's approved to, what I call expedite the naming of, or the accepting of private ways to streets. So that's in process right now, working its way through the legislature. I would mention that the charter for Marlboro is slightly different than Framingham and all the other 51 cities and towns. Everybody has something different on how they want to appoint, whether it's a resignation or a death. I would point out, we've had 3 ward councilors passing in our time, and we haven't followed the rules yet as a city council. We've opted each time to ask for home rule petition for the legislature to do it. Now, you can watch the tapes, the reasons are all different, but it was clear to me as we went through this that to say, okay, if you're going to have an election, but at any time up to the 6-month mark, the 6-month mark just doesn't, in today's world, isn't sufficient time. So I'm recommending, I didn't make it as same as the at-large for the entire, anytime someone resigns or passes, you can appoint them, but I just move that date up to January 1st. So that if January 1st, if there's an issue, the council will do just like we would for an at-large council. You might argue stay at large because you haven't died in office yet, so that might be a good thing for the at-large gang. I mean, that has worked out well. But I just saw it as an opportunity to buy us more time. If in the first 12 months of the year, if something happens, hold an election, there's plenty of time. As Councilor Fischello said, you're not bumping up against 2 sets of elections, and the 2 that he means are primary, and then the preliminary, then the election, and then the municipal preliminary, then the election. You get out of that window. You'd have it earlier. After, in the second year of the term, this body would support or would conduct a selection process. And Councilor Fischello's right again, just like we did for the school committee. We would post something, we would get applications, we would have them all come up, state their case, and then the council would vote to select someone. But again, I go back to this time around, the vacancy occurred in April. We were supposed to have an election, but we opted to go the home rule petition, which was okay. We've done the precedent. We've set that before. So if we're going to do that, why not give ourselves more time and actually say, first year if something happens, the people get to choose. The second year if something happens, the council will select. At large, anytime the council gets to select. So anytime an at-large council either resigns, moves on, this body chooses it. So it's a power invested in us. And then when you go look at all other cities and towns, and I did not look at all of them, but they're all different. They all have different requirements for how they want to do it. And is this a hill for me to die on? No, I just see this is an opportunity for us to do it a little more efficiently and give the election office for Mr. Kerrigan and his staff some time, because it's just too, the election process now is just tough. And if anyone hasn't been paying attention, the turnout hasn't been actually blowing the socks off of people.
Madam Chair, can I just get a clarification from Councilor Austin? Because he's now talking about the first year and the second year, where his suggestion isn't splitting it, it's any time. Anytime a councilor, a vacancy occurs at any time in the
okay,
office.
I
you are
had the same
correct.
So
question.
if you're going to go, I actually might support it if a vacancy occurs before the last 6 months, then we could vote. Otherwise, it's an election.
And I'm good with that, because again, some of the ones I was trying to dust up on it today, and there were a lot that had the election on first 12 months, an election, last 12 months, council makes the pick. And I'm okay with it. I just think the last 6 months really makes it a challenge to get that election in play. So
And I would be amenable to, within the last 6 months, electing, but otherwise, I mean, it would still be difficult, and I really had an issue, and maybe it's because we didn't make up the rules. I don't think there are any rules for how the school committee is elected, except for somebody decided to create rules. I would prefer that we would have had time to do a more thorough interview of those candidates, rather than for them to do a 2-minute spiel and then us saying okay or not okay. So I do like the idea, if we're going to do an election, to have a definitive time to discuss with them, with the candidates, and to have time for them, the word to get out so people are aware. So I don't know if you want to figure out how to reword this, or...
if
so-
I can, Madam Chair, I'll work on the word, and it should be real quick, but I'll let you, the deliberations continue unless Chairwoman Brown has already done that for us.
So, thank you, counselors. I have the clean version of the proposed change, would then be, if a vacancy occurs before the last 6 months in office of a counselor elected by and from the voters of a ward, such vacancy shall be filled forthwith by a majority vote of all the remaining members of the city council for the remainder of the unexpired term. So that would be the wording. I saw Councilor Vital has his hand up.
Thank you,
Hello over
Madam
there.
Chair. I was going to get a flag, but that was not to you, just that I'm so far away from all the human contact. I agree with Councilor Fitzgerald and with Councilor Roby. But one thing that Councilor Roby said that I, as a ward councilor, I kind of disagree with. I feel that I'm blessed as a ward councilor to have 4 outstanding at-large councilors. And most of my constituents, when they have something that's really upsetting to them, they'll let all the councilor at-large people know about it as well. So I would argue that our councilors at-large and this body knows my ward better than someone who just might be coming off the street and getting a quick election and then getting selected for the position. I think I would trust this body to represent my ward better in an emergency situation than a quick election or multiple elections. And then we also got to talk about, the cost of putting on an election and so forth and so on. I think that, I like the way it's written right now. I would be completely, I'd become comfortable with either, but I like it the way it is right now. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Counselor.
I'm sorry to belabor the point again, but did you just reread what the current is, or did you reread what the clean version? Because if you read the current, then we still need to take care of the last 6 months.
Do you mean in what I just read off of the page?
Yes.
That was from the clean version of proposed change to vacancies in the
But
ward
you
counselor.
added something somewhere. Did you-
Before the last 6, so I had stricken out at any time and replaced it with before the last 6 months.
So it's really getting it back to what currently is there. It doesn't take care of, I'd rather combine the two, keep what's there now, and then add if it occurs after the last 6 months. Then it's a majority vote. Does that make sense?
Counselor Virgilio?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So my understanding of our compromise here would be, if the vacancy occurs before the last 12 months, then we will have an election. If it's after the 12 months, then we would appoint. I thought we were kind of, because if we leave it where it is now, then in the last 6 months of office, I don't think we've ever faced that before. So I don't know if there is anything that the charter even says about, what happens in those final 6 months.
But 12 months could still, if it's January of the second year, there's still time to have an election in January, where the 6 months, June makes it a little harder. So I would say the first 18 months or the first 6, whatever, like doing the math.
So
January to June of the following year. So
for the
that's-
clean version, so what you're proposing is if a vacancy occurs, I'm going to have you fill in the blank there.
a vacancy occurs during the first 16 months of the term?
So-
Or does 12 work?
That's
Counselor.
Madam Chair,
President Nossing.
so based on the feedback, I'm happy to go back and come back, if we want to table or postpone this, I'll come up with some new language and present it at the next meeting we have with L&L, instead of trying to figure this out on the fly, because we usually don't do well in those situations.
Thank you, President Nossing. So with that, I will entertain a motion.
Madam Chair.
Councilor Frachillo.
Move to postpone this item.
Okay, a motion has been made and seconded to postpone this item. All those in favor? 3, none opposed, carries 3-0. And moving on, we will go to order number 25-100-9414, which is a communication from City Solicitor Grossfield regarding the procedure to fill the vacant Ward 7 councillor position.
And Madam Chair, I would say we have taken this up and voted on it.
We have.
So all we're doing is waiting for a response. So I was going to say, you don't need to read a letter if that was what you were going to do. I'm not even sure why it's on here, because we've taken action. We're just waiting for the legislator to do something.
That is, yep, that is essentially the update. I would entertain a motion to accept and place on file the communication from the solicitor.
Which I think we already did back in April.
No, so we did, well, Madam Chair.
President Nossing?
So we didn't. We actually sent it to committee to discuss, so.
No, I've got the minutes of the April 28th City Council meeting where a report of the legislative affairs from April 23rd is the communication from the solicitor, order number 9414, and there was a suspension of the rules to approve that a home rule petition be drafted in accordance with section blah, blah, blah. Referred to the city solicitor, adopted. So, once it went to the city solicitor, I mean, unless it's got to come back from the city solicitor, I don't know that there's anything else we can do.
Okay, I will take a motion. Councilor Frachillo?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Move to accept and place on file the communication.
Okay, a motion has been made and seconded to accept and place on file the communication from the solicitor. All those in favor? 3. All those opposed would be 0. Carries 3-0. And now for the last item on our agenda, order number 25-100-9576, the proposed lease agreement with the South Middlesex Opportunity Council for space at the Walker Building. Okay. So in a letter from the mayor dated October 15th, 2025, dear Council President Nossing and councilors, a few months ago, Sharon McCollum, program director of the local WIC program, asked about available city spaces near our Human Services Department operated by SMOC on the first floor of the Walker Building. WIC's current Marlborough location is being sold and their lease is ending. For public convenience, WIC proposed relocating to the Walker Building to serve residents more effectively, offering easier downtown access and co-location with Human Services. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30B, Section 16, the city issued a request for proposals to lease the underutilized space on the first floor of the Walker Building. Enclosed for your review is a council order authorizing a notice of award and lease to South Middlesex Opportunity Council for 1,890 square feet, specifically WIC. SMOC's proposal was found to be responsive, responsible, and well-suited to the space, complementing the Human Services Department on the same floor, which serves many of the same residents. The lease is proposed at $30,844.80 annually, broken down to $2,570.40 per month for a 3-year term with the 2-year renewal option, consistent with the market analysis completed in July. Please see the attached documents, including a letter from Krista Holme, a proposed draft lease, SMOC's proposal, and a council order to approve the following: declare the space available for disposition, allow issuance of a notice of award, and authorize the mayor to execute the lease for up to 5 years. Please do not hesitate to contact me with questions. Sincerely, J. Christian Dumas, Mayor. With that, I will open it up to discussion from the committee. Councilor Fucillo?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to thank the mayor for sending this down to us. I did some homework on through MassGov, the Women, Infants, and Children Nutrition Program. They do some fantastic work in Marlboro, and so it would be very beneficial to keep them here in Marlboro. So it's great to utilize some underutilized space and to get them here. So I'll leave it up for further discussion, but if there isn't any, I would move to declare the space, move the order which would declare the space available for disposition, allow issuance of a notice of award, and to authorize the mayor to execute the lease for up to 5 years.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
A motion has been made, and I will second it. I share a lot of your sentiments, and for me, it's a steady and reliable source of revenue, fills a vacancy, and it really makes our human services more centrally located. And we also did receive a great reference from their current landlord. So with that, is there any further discussion? Councilor Vital.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a great organization, and SMOC, we have done many projects with partnering with SMOC over the years, including Roland's House just locally and the community cupboard, and on and on and on it goes. I checked the rate of the lease, the monthly rate, and it's right on target. So it's a great organization, and we're making some money on this deal. But I am not in favor of this project, and let me tell you why. When we had to choose about putting a very expensive boiler in the building, I asked the mayor, did we have a plan as far as what we're doing with our public buildings? And I heard crickets. And then when we had to put a roof on the Bigelow School, I asked, do we have a plan for our public buildings? And again, crickets. I will not vote for any new tenants in any of our public buildings until the mayor presents a long-term plan to what we're supposed to do with these buildings. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Vital. Councilor Roby?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I hear the concerns of Councilor Vital, but I know the City Council did do an approval of an RFP a number of years ago, and we got, I believe, no responses. If we got any, they were crazy, ridiculous, not to even bother looking at the details. So I don't think at this point that the Walker Building is high on the priority list of the mayor, which I sort of I'm unhappy about, but I can understand that the school and the fire station at this point are a priority, and that the Walker Building may come back up as an issue in the future. So while renting the space, if for some reason a decision to do something else with the Walker Building comes to fruition, I think we'd have to do the workaround with lease in the building. But at this point, that building is basically empty. So why not let someone who is doing good work in the city get closer to other things that are happening through SMOC, so that they can be closer together and maybe a little more convenient location to the mothers who need the WIC services. So I would be in favor of this lease at this point in time.
Thank you, Councilor. Any further discussion?
Madam Chair.
Councilor Fucillo?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just one quick point, and I agree, Councilor Vital. We do need a plan for these municipal buildings. Now, with them being underutilized, seeing that this is a 3-year lease with a 2-year renewal option, I'm very comfortable allowing them to use the space for that time period, knowing that we likely won't have, a full plan and kind of an idea of what we want to use this space for as a city. I also, in my initial remarks, want to take a moment just to let folks at home know WIC, their nutrition program that provides healthy foods, nutritional education, and breastfeeding support, and other referrals to healthcare for folks in Massachusetts who do qualify. Also, with the federal government shutdown, their services were not impacted at all, so they're fully operational right now. And with that, my motion still stands. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Fucillo. So we have a motion. It's been seconded. All those in favor? 3. The vote carries 3-0. And I would also like to ask if the committee would be favorable to asking for a suspension for this item at the next meeting. Thank you. With that, I'll entertain another motion.
Move to adjourn.
Okay, a motion has been made and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3. Motion carries 3-0. The meeting is adjourned at 7:05 p.m. Thank you.
Good evening. I call the Public Services Committee meeting to order. The date is Thursday, November 13th, 2025, and the time is 7:10 p.m. We have one item on this evening's agenda, and that is order number 25-100-9577, an application for a junk dealer license from Matthew McDonald Furlong, DBA Eco ATM LLC at 240 East Main Street. I'd like to begin the meeting with a communication from Police Chief David Georgie, dated Thursday, November 13th, earlier today. Good evening. I did speak with Christopher Reyes of Eco ATM on Wednesday afternoon, and he advised me that the query request had been submitted earlier in the week, but they were still awaiting the results. At this time, I have not received a copy of the results, but I will notify you and the council as soon as I do. As you know, Eco ATM did previously operate in the city at a location at Solomon Pond Mall, and there were no issues with the business while they operated there. Any questions, please let me know. Thank you, Chief David A. Georgie. With that, I know councilors got some information regarding the business. I know the applicant is not able to be with us tonight, but I will open it up to discussion from members of the committee. Councilor Irish.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I'm familiar with this this process. I supported this when it was at the Solomon Pond Mall. Just a couple things. The question that came up back then was how secure is how the security of it. I know the process is contact-free and includes identity verification to help prevent any fraud going forward with the product. And one of the biggest things was it's eco-friendly. So I supported it then. I strongly support it now. And my motion would be to approve order number 25-100-9577, subject to the results of the query from the Chief Georgie. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Irish. Motion is made and seconded. All those in favor? Any discussion? All those in... Oh, Councilor Roby.
Sorry.
Yeah.
This is inside a grocery store? Is that the current or the plan to
Yes,
have
it's
the
gonna be
location?
inside Market 32,
Which is open 24 hours?
Double check.
No? Okay, but, so people would know to bring them there to do whatever they used to do at the old one at the mall. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Roby. And Market 32, from what I see here, is 6 a.m. to midnight, just based on a Google search. But thank you for that information. So, with that, any further discussion from councilors? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 2-0 with one absent. I will entertain a motion
Mr.
to
Chair,
adjourn.
motion to adjourn.
Motion is made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 2-0, and we are adjourned at 7:13 p.m.
Good evening. I'd like to call the City Council Personnel Committee to order. The time is 7:15 p.m. We have 2 items on our agenda this evening, starting with order number 25-100-9588, proposed job descriptions pursuant to Chapter 125 Personnel, Section 5, preparation of classification descriptions relative to the position of General Foreman for Fleet Maintenance Division, Forestry, Parks, and Cemetery Divisions, and Streets Division within the Department of Public Works. We're joined by Commissioner Scott. Commissioner, if you want to come up to the well while I read the mayor's letter. Dear Council President Ossing and councilors, enclosed for your review and approval is a job description for... Sorry, that's the wrong letter. 1 second. Same beginning. Dear Council President Ossing and councilors, enclosed for your review and acceptance are job descriptions for the following positions currently vacant in the Department of Public Works. Department of Public Works Fleet Maintenance Division General Foreman, Department of Public Works Forestry, Parks, and Cemetery Division General Foreman, and Department of Public Works Street Division General Foreman. The purpose of these updated job descriptions is to align with the other job descriptions you have seen come before you. They are based on recommendations from the Collins Center study as we work towards finalizing job descriptions for all non-union and union positions. Due to the need to commence with the hiring process, these positions were prioritized to ensure we are using the most current and accurate version available. Please do not hesitate to contact me or my office with any questions. Sincerely, J. Christian Dumas, Mayor. Commissioner, good evening.
Good evening.
Would you like to offer something different than the letter I just read from the mayor?
Just to reinforce, we're trying to get these down here. These are the same positions that the council was gracious enough to allow us for our succession plan to increase these because they are important. So based upon that and why we held out, it's been a long several months with the succession plan, but now this is the final piece to the leadership team. And these positions, one of them has been open for almost 2 years, another one almost 1, and another for 4 months. So we really need to get this going. I appreciate if everything's okay, a suspension of the rules. What we did, because we did, if you recall, the salary structure was increased because the foremen working overtime were making more money. These general foremen are expected to come to emergencies, so part of what we did to this job description, if you look on page 2 in the bullet points, I can read it off to you. Responds to emergencies after regular hours, including nights, weekends, and holidays as needed. So it was always implied that they did that, but, and if you're hiring the right person, they should be doing that, but we wanted to make sure it's in the job description going forward. So that was one of the, then there's a couple other technical things that we put in there, but that was kind of that piece. So that's why we're down here. We wanted to make sure that's in here. So the job description is matches what the intent of the salary schedule and everything falls into place. So if you have any questions.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner. How will the position of Forestry, Parks, and Cemetery Division General Foreman continue to build on the good work you've already been doing in the cemetery? I know that sometimes in the cemeteries, as we've talked about, there's obviously a great need, and we have to move positions around really to be able to help everybody out. Will this help create
Absolutely.
more availability there for staff?
Absolutely. So, and again, we have a good amount of open positions, but to remember, these aren't the same positions. We've had an older workforce and they've retired. These open positions, 2 of them are retiring. And we also had the cemetery foreman retire at the same time. So when open positions, people fill in. We have interims trying out, but the sooner we can get these head positions in to get everything set, the better off we'll be. And it's not just one position, it's everybody working collaboratively. So when we get all the positions filled, people help one another out, and we'll start filling in. We're still filling roughly. We filled a pump station. We filled a junior engineer position just recently. It seems like every time we fill someone, something else, someone retires or leaves, or. But having these positions is critical for the leadership to make sure everybody else is doing their job. Yep.
Great. Thank you. I will open up to members of the committee. Councilor Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So thank you for all of the description and explanation. I recognize that its purpose is to align with the other descriptions, and it's been prioritized to move this forward to fill vacancies, as you just described. I don't have any questions, but I will motion to approve the proposed job descriptions.
Great. Motion has been made and second to approve the job descriptions as submitted. Are there any other questions or comments from councilors for discussion? Councilor Roby.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, Commissioner, I know that each of the definitions have very specific jobs for the people to do that are pretty specific to each of the divisions, but then they all state that they may assist in the provisions or personnel or maintenance work across all of DPW. So you hire someone to come in and do, I mean, I guess I'm reiterating maybe the question that was asked. Somebody from Park and Rec, how are they going to know what's happening on a street? They're supposed to be the grounds keeper, recreation, trees. What do they know about streets?
Well, it depends on what, so say it's, use the cemeteries for an example. If it's Memorial Day, if we need people, we pull them from other areas. They're expected to do their job, and they're expected to fill in just like now when we have open positions. You're expected to fill in. You're expected to get the job done, whatever it takes. So you're not, this isn't the old days when it's like, that's not my job, I'm water, or I'm this. That doesn't fly anymore. We have to be able to move and be flexible, because we tend to have open positions, or if you have people that are sick or everything, people need to be flexible. So that's why we have that wording in there. So do they know how to lead? No, but they can have instructions for a certain crew and help out that way too. And these are the people we hire can do a lot of things. You might not have a parks guy know how to pave, but he'll know how to do other things and tap into the talent and supervise the people that know how to do it. You know?
Okay, because I mean, I'm reading it says maintenance work across, so that means to me you're going to tell a foreman to go out and be doing something that they may not know anything about.
Remember, the general foreman's a
Maintenance.
supervisor.
Okay.
So he's making sure the foreman beneath him runs the crew, and that's a little more technical. The general foreman oversees and makes sure the foreman has what he needs, has the right amount, make sure he's moving. Is there a problem? Does he need to get help from somewhere else? Or so he's supervising. He should know what he's doing, but in other times he can just supervise.
Okay.
Much like our snow and ice, everybody comes together no matter what division they're in, and they all have to work together and learn how to do the job.
And I guess that leads me to my second question. Well, first I was going to add, I'll ask the second. So in two of the positions, they're actually coordinating the snow and ice. The cemetery division is assisting. So you've got two people coordinating under the auspices of their boss. Does that cause conflict?
No.
Why not just have one
So
of them coordinate?
The streets general foreman is the snow boss. He's in charge of the operation.
Okay.
And the other ones the parks would be the next one in line, and the other ones can fall in line. The fleet takes care of the fleet, but other ones will assist. They all will be pressed into service if they have to, so.
And they all know how to operate the equipment that the
Yes,
city
they all,
has?
remember, they all have their CDLs. The people we hire come up from the ranks and learn their job, so they know probably better than some how to operate the equipment, yeah.
And
But they're not operating, they're supervising. They're checking on contractors, they're checking, are they getting the routes done? Oh, you missed that? Because snow and ice never goes easily. Someone calls in sick, some equipment breaks down, a contractor doesn't show up. People that aren't in routes have to switch to other routes. So the foreman or the general foreman has to oversee and say, hey, you missed that street over there, or what have you, so that we make sure we don't miss stuff. So it's more of a supervision type thing
Okay.
than actually doing the work.
All right, it just, some of these, and I guess it's the fact that they only have a high school diploma or equivalent, and then they have the CDL class, which may not mean anything because they're not actually driving the vehicles, they're just supervising. But is there some other kind of a degree or training that these people should have?
You see the
or
preferred
could
degrees,
have?
or there are some minimum qualifications. What you don't see is water has a certain type of water license. These not necessarily.
But if you intermingle them, if you've got somebody who's the fleet division who might have automotive service excellence certification, but the streets division doesn't, does that mean that they're capable of supervising if they don't know what they're doing?
Well, the verbiage is in there, so we have the flexibility to, and the people we hire, we're hiring the right people. That being said, you want the job description to be the safety net, and because it is a union position. So you want the latitude in there to set the expectation of what the job is.
Yeah.
So that when it's a time when the person doesn't want to do it, you can refer back to them. This is what you were hired for. It was all there in black and white.
Right.
This is the expectation. The expectation is, if you need to help out, you help out. If you need to be there in emergency, you need to be there.
And I get that. I'm just not sure that a high school graduate coming in as a general foreman for fleet maintenance would know how to do the reports, including labor and parts, accident reports, damage estimates, fuel consumption. A lot of these things to me seem like it should be the person in charge of them doing those kinds of things.
I didn't hear the last part.
The person in charge of them doing a lot of the detail stuff
No,
that's
general
in here.
foreman.
They're
The old general
qualified?
foremen were worker bees. Our general foremen are not anymore. They're on munis. They do requisitions. They do.
And they're trained on that, or they come trained because they have experience? All right.
And again, we train them, and we worked really hard with this negotiation. So before it was always the senior man, and now we have that as most qualified with senior as a backup. That was a huge thing. We got into the union contracts this year. We're picking the best people to be the interim foreman or the interim general foreman. So these people, if the general foreman is out, the current one, much like we have now in the vacant positions, we have an interim foreman that's been an interim foreman for almost 2 years. He's learning how to do the job. They periodically learn how to do the job and get trained in it. So they're not coming in cold. If you get someone from the outside, they'd have to, during the interview process, we'd have to vet them to make sure they know how to do it. And then they'd have to get trained on how we do it
Okay.
in-house.
All right, I guess I have to trust you in your ability to fill these positions with people who know how to do all the things that this says that they're supposed to be doing, but I would say that's a
And that's
lot.
that's why the succession plan is so important. So for these positions, we will be going outside just to see what we can get. But eventually, we don't want to do that, because the best job interview is every day with the people we have here. You see how they work, you see their motivation, you see, and we just hire them up through the ranks. The people that rise to the top, that's what you want. Outside, you never know what you're getting. You have a 45 to an hour interview, you can only know so much. And requirements don't always mean everything either. You could have someone as a PE that's not any good, so, or anything, so, or an MBA, or it's just a piece of paper sometimes.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Roby. I used to think commissioner was the coolest title you guys had, but snow boss. I used to think commissioner was the coolest title you had over there, but snow boss might take the cake for a good position. Councilor Warren.
I'm boss of the snow boss, so that's better.
Keep up the good work on the snow. The first thing I had down was what you just discussed, succession, and how important that is, and it's good to hear that you're handling it that way, and you're looking at within your department, and hopefully people are learning, so if someone was out sick, you'd have someone to help out in between. Under fleet maintenance, it talks about having a mass hoisting license. Is there a reason for that?
Yeah, because they drive the equipment.
Oh, so they have to go out and test,
Move the equipment, you have to test it out.
so they're just not being...
And when we get a new piece of equipment, Fleet will get the new piece of equipment. It might be a new model. They run it through, make sure it's all right, and if they have to train any of our regular equipment operators to show them what's new on something, they train them, yeah, so they have
They
to.
maintaining equipment that also requires having a hoisting license, basically.
And
Thank you.
CEO.
I wasn't for sure, but that's good to know. Now, one area on all three that I would like to see worded the same way it's worded under your, I believe it's under Forestry, Parks, and Cemetery, is there's a statement in there that says, for minimum qualifications, must obtain Massachusetts Qualified Tree Warden. I like that language. What I don't see, and I would hope that we could change minimum qualifications to have each one have a notice that must obtain OSHA 30-hour certification within 12 months of appointment versus having it as preferred. I don't know if you can do that, but I think that would be important, especially it was what night? We've been busy so much. It was, I think, Monday night. Yes, Monday night we were talking to our comptroller about cost and about the Mass Interlocal Insurance Agency. They have rewards program and the importance of safety. And I even brought up you can't replace an eye when you're dealing with safety. So that's how concerned I am that that be moved into minimum qualifications. Allow maybe 12 or 6 months, whatever you think is appropriate, but I would like to see that moved into minimum qualifications.
And we are improving our safety program. In fact, even in the equipment operators negotiation, we entered into a stipend for us. They're responsible for safety training. So we, even though they get some perks, we got some stuff out of the and that was one of them, because we do want them. We do offer training in those Maya training, and they, it's almost like a class of high school kids when after about an hour, everybody's glazed over and stops listening, but you got to get them engaged into the safety program, make it their own, make them responsible, not just it's checking a box, something that management wants them to do. So we are improving that, and I understand what you're saying, the safety, that's another thing we added was the OSHA 30. Some of them, and a lot of them have gotten it on their own. So when they see the job have this and it says preferred, and it makes them, or minimum, it makes them want to go for it to make them a better candidate for the position, so.
That would be my suggestion to the committee, is to require that, move OSHA 30-hour certification out of preferred qualifications to minimum, but give it a timeline, because if they don't have it, give them the 6 to 12 months. I would ask the committee to consider it as an addendum to these job descriptions. Thank you, Mr. Commissioner.
Councilor Vital.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. 15 years in human resources, and I've written an awful lot of job descriptions in my time, and these are very, very good, so well done. One thing I always had at the bottom was, all other duties as assigned, right? So that just basically said, wherever you're needed, you got to help us out. And so that eliminated them. I was saying that's not in my job description. One thing I thought was missing, though, and maybe because of the contract, we can't put it in there, but my last job was regional director of HR for Cablevision, and I hired general foremans, and we had a section on the job description of physical demands. Like you had to be able to climb a 30-foot ladder, you had to be able to carry a 60-pound, toolbox. None of those physical demands are in here, or at least they're not separated. I didn't really like it, and the ones that I've always had, they were like its own, down right above qualifications was physical demands.
So there is, and the stuff on the last page is more of the general HR stuff, and it does have like sit stands with intermediate periods of stooping, office equipment weighing up so.
There was a little bit.
I think the intent was in HR is to make these more uniform, these second pages. Okay. We had other stuff in our older there was more job-specific, but the idea was to get these more uniform.
Thank you,
That's-
Mr. Chair, I suggest, not on the committee, but I suggest we, not only do we accept these job descriptions as written with the change that Councilor Oro mentions, but we also have a suspension so that he can get these things filled up as fast as possible. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Counselor Vital. Counselor Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the discussion of the other fellow counselors. I am happy to amend my motion to add in the addendum as mentioned by Counselor Oram for the OSHA piece to be placed in.
The one I mentioned about, instead of preferred, having on a minimum qualifications that they have OSHA training within 6 to 12 months, thank you for that.
Thank you. So moved.
So, I'm sorry, can you clarify? Is it 6 to 12, or is it
Well,
12 like the other one was?
yeah, it says 12 for the one about the tree warden. I would ask maybe, if I may, Mr. Chair, through you to the commissioner, what he thinks. Do you think they can do it in 6 months, or do you think they need the 12?
We can have it at 6 or 12. We'll provide it for them. We'll make the opportunity there for them, so.
I would do 12, just to
Okay,
give it
and
some
then you work
flexibility.
to try to get it better than that.
Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I'll note that the amendment has not been seconded, just for clarification, but the DPW commissioners worked hard to get these things done, and I don't want to challenge him on his job description, because I just don't know enough to say add this or subtract that. I mean, if you're comfortable with them, I'm relying on you. We spent a lot of time discussing getting these interim and foreman positions up to a certain pay raise or pay level, and then also getting the job descriptions, which is next. You know best what you need. So I'm not going to offer you anything that says change this, do that. If you're comfortable with them, I'm comfortable with them, because you've got to work with the staff. Thank you,
Well,
Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I
Mr. President.
appreciate the comment to make them more uniform. I think it's a good idea.
All right, well, then the motion has been made and seconded to approve as amended with the OSHA, with 12 months to do the OSHA training. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 2-0. Commissioner, thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, and our last item on the agenda is order number 25-100-9589, proposed job descriptions pursuant to Chapter 125, Personnel Section 5, preparation and classification descriptions relative to the position of fire chief. Letter from the mayor dated October 30. Dear Council President, Ossing, and councilors, enclosed for your review and approval is a job description for the fire chief position. The purpose of this updated job description is to align with the recommendations from the Collins Center study as we work towards finalizing job descriptions for all non-union and union positions. Due to the importance of this role and the need to proceed with the hiring process, this position was prioritized to ensure we are using the most current and accurate versions available. Please do not hesitate to contact me or my office with any questions. Sincerely, J. Christian Dumas, Mayor. Having read that, I will open up to members of the committee. Councilor Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this one seemed pretty straightforward to me, especially given that we will be in the search for our next fire chief of the city, and that they use the recommendations from the Collins Center study for these job descriptions. And for those reasons, I will motion to approve the job description as submitted.
Thank you very much, Councilor Brown. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the job classification and description for the fire chief. Are there any additional comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carries 2-0. Before we adjourn, just want to get a sense of the committee for the suspensions on DPW. We didn't do that, although it's been referenced. Any concerns with asking for a suspension on Monday?
Committee has no concerns, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much to the entire committee for their comments. Having said that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
All those in favor? Opposed? We are adjourned at 7:40. Thanks, everybody.